Hello everyone, this is Pavel and the fourth episode of the podcast I Love Anime. As I've mentioned earlier, it's impossible to limit myself to one podcast about the Attack on Titan. And in this episode, I will focus on the second and third seasons of the show. Also, I would like to thank everyone who supported the podcast by listening. Even if it's not very popular, I still like making it to write scripts and to reflect on the anime I watch longer than I usually do. In addition, it's very nice to read your comments on YouTube. Therefore, thank you for sharing your thoughts because this is how I better understand why such media as anime has found so many fans around the world. But enough for the introduction. Buckle your vertical maneuver equipment as you can already hear those sounds. A minimal period of time has passed since the end of the first season in the Titan universe. In the real world, 4 years passed. I'm not sure, but I guess that such a big gap was made so that the manga will develop further its event. Also, I heard after the huge hype for the first season, the second one was already losing in popularity in reviews. To tell the truth, while watching it for the first time, I experienced a slight decline, but rewatching significantly improved my perception. But the first thing first, and although I doubt that those who have never watched Titans will get to the second episode, I warned you that there will be frequent spoilers further. After recapture of Annie, it's become clear to our heroes that the walls are probably made of huge titans, so the habitual foundation of the worlds begin to shake, and to add fuel to the fire, the titans appear behind the second wall, which indicates its breakthrough and terrible consequences for the remains of people. At the same time, the scouts are trying to find out if there are any other traitors like any among them. The cherry on the top is the outing of another intelligent titan whom everyone calls the Beast Titan, who is rather on an excursion here. In general, the situation is not the best, and the concentration of events is great. Supporting characters come to the fore, namely Connie, Sasha, Ymir, Krista, Bertolt and Reiner, who were under suspicion. That's why they were without equipment at the time of the Titan's appearance. After that, they were sent to the nearby villages to warn residents about the threat. And it was a rather interesting team, as almost all of them were masked to some degree, hiding their real selves behind them. Sasha, whose obsession with food as well as her personality are forever in my heart, and I understand her perfectly well. What can be better than delicious meat or potatoes? At the same time, in the first season, she is a bit of a chicken, but the scenes where she is rescuing a girl from the Titan's clutches in her native villages demonstrates how she is overcoming her fears. And through flashbacks from school and with her father, we see how once in a stranger environment, she adapts through a strange manner of speech as if being embarrassed of who she is, a simple village girl. But she has her own unique skills like survival and keenness when shooting, so I wouldn't call it just a source of rare but relevant funny moments that added color to this dark story. She is the heart of this work as well, which is doomed to beat only for a while and bring us joy by its openness. Until the fourth season, I had no idea how important she was to us. Well, there's something in my eyes again. Connie in my mind acts as Sasha's soulmate, but without any romantic undertone. In general, he is not a fully revealed character for me, just a kind, brave and reliable companion. But there is something special in his simplicity that holds our group together until the very end. Moreover, he didn't stay away from the burden that Isayama-san kindly settled onto him. His village is destroyed, and a strange awkward titan which strangely resembles his mother sticks out of his own home. Later, the knowledge that there's a people inside the titans who were turned by Zeke will hit the head like a hammer. And his acquaintance, including his father, could have been killed or are still walking around somewhere having lost their human forms. It's time to move on to the duo of Ymir and Krista, who became friends during their cadets day, complimenting each other and forever arguing about everything. In the flashback with Sasha, for example, Ymir tells Sasha to stop communicate with unnatural politeness, and Krista tells her in the teeth that if it's easier for Sasha, then let her communicate and behave as she wants. As we find out, both of them hide their real identities. Ymir is another intelligent titan who got here being sentenced because once she, an ordinary poor girl, was brought into a cult and was called the reincarnation of the goddess. And although I don't remember if it was said anywhere, I think that Ymir is not her real name, and it could have been given to her in the cult in honor of the founder. In any case, through her story we were shown for the first time how people were brought to the island and what was done to turn them into titans. And Ymir spent thousands of years in this form until she met Rainer's group and ate one of them, thereby regaining her human form. At the same time, she decided that she would live only for herself, because it was the pretense that brought her into the body of a titan. And having accidentally learned about the girl called Krista Lance, who was forced to renounce her name, she felt the similarity of destinies and enrolled into the training corps. And then to the scout regiment, protecting Krista, simultaneously trying to pull out her real identity, which was hiding behind the mask of a good girl. I will not pretend to be a shrink, but by the chance I came across the description of so-called good girl syndrome. There is also one for good boys. Krista easily fits the description. Her mother, who gave birth from a famous landlord, who was also the king of the walls, didn't love her daughter. And Krista, subconsciously, could think that she was not good enough and therefore not worthy of love. In addition, her stepsister rooted in her head the idea that she should behave well and be kind. As a result, she became convenient for everyone. She tried to help everyone, even when no one asked her to do this. A kind of an angel with a pure heart, but this is just a facade. In our world, such people can be exploited, and it's difficult to become truly happy with such an internal imbalance. Therefore, if you have such an acquaintance, then perhaps they are suffering inside and they need help. So, Krista eventually went through a metamorphosis, became an ordinary. Sometimes rude, sometimes naughty, but already a more balanced and real person. But to tell the truth, watching for the first time I was mostly annoyed by the one featuring the Krista Historia and Ymir relationship. For 12 episodes they will convince each other to live for themselves while still doing things that contradict that statement. I understand that no one can change on the click. Historia will actively continue her transformation in season 3. Anyway, their relationship is made of conflict emotion, but this is Isayama-san's way when it comes to such stories. In any case, when Historia eventually received the letter from Ymir, you realize once again how much they meant to each other. Thus, showing how important it is to be in harmony with yourself and to have people around who can accept you the way you are, without mask, in constant attempt to fit yourself with others. Now we have reached the point to talk about the duo worth an Oscar for their acting, Bertolt and Rainer. The second one got so used to the role generally that he went bonkers. Bertolt was in the shadows most of the time, until the famous moment when their secret was revealed. I almost didn't pay attention to him, which is logical in general. Why would the spy come to the fore at all? Annie tried not to stand out, but her outstanding fighting skills were impossible to hide. At the same time, Rainer decided on the contrary to be in the public eye, to help everyone, to be a support and try to achieve maximum results. And after all, it also worked. Nobody could doubt him, considering him an exemplary soldier and friend. But it was impossible to hide such a powerful conflict that had been growing in him for years. And after the experience and trust in Ulgar Castle, he broke down. He decided to tell Aaron everything openly, perhaps considered that for the sake of saving humanity he could agree to such madness. But we all know the result perfectly well. Mikasa hesitated killing them at once, an incredible epic music started, and Aaron realized completely that his close comrades were deceiving him. This most powerful scene gives you goosebumps. It's rather interesting, of course, how Isayama-san worked the trick with the fact that the group is already aware of the traitors. But he generally likes to rhyme moments. Aaron's endless kidnappings say a lot. It seems that he has a coin where on the one side there's abduction imprisonment, and on the other side someone is punching him hardly. He loves him very much, of course. I would like to enlarge on the fight between Rainer and Eren in the form of Titans, because it was the point in which I began to notice even more how it all resembles mixed martial arts. And I read that Isayama-san is a devotee of MMA, so he made the Titans fight exactly like that. And this is another detail that makes battle unique, because you do not often see some kind of a hold and wrestling instead of a more straightforward punch. Also, during this battle, the anime raises the main unanswered question of the entire title. Who the hell won the fight between Mikasa and Annie in that flashback from training? And at some point here I got another terribly belated thought that the Attack on Titan might have a mech attack. And a friend of mine said that the author himself said that he wanted to create an inside-out mecha. Damn, it worked. However, for the other pilots of Titans, there is the only exit at Patras, sorry to say. Although according to the plot we are now only in the middle of the second season, I will just touch upon some elements. Here is Bertholdt's breakdown, signalizing that he considered our heroes as friends as well, but during the next meeting he would reject those feelings and would be ready to kill them. And another crazy idea by Eren, which will work but will cast the lives of countless subordinates in his hand, and of course the touching moment when Eren loses his heart after Hannah's death and Mikasa thanks him for everything he has done for her. And you can see how important it's for him, and he seems to restrain his feeling by force, because if he sets them free, he won't be able to move forward recklessly. It makes sense to move on to the events and topic of the third season, which second half is strongly associated with something great and monumental. Although there are strong moments in the first half as well. Once again, when I talk about cool animation and directing in anime, one episode almost instantly pops up in my head, where Levi, in maneuvering in the nest, fighting back not titans, but hit squad led by the man who had played a key role in his life. Kenny is an interesting character in general, a murderer living for himself, but having met the real kings of the wall, he starts asking questions beyond satisfaction of his needs. And he even wondered if he can become as holy as the king if he takes his power for himself. And in the last minute of his life, he said that every person lives in addition to what makes him high, thus saying that none of us is truly free. Interesting thought for such a character. We are moving more and more away from the simple scheme where titans are monsters that need to be killed and there will be peace and quiet for humanity. Titans turn out to be people transformed into monsters, and we also learn about people on the other side of the walls who are trying to kill everyone. The manhunt for curious scouts has already begun at the behest of those who really control everything inside the walls. And so, our heroes are already involved in conspiracy intrigues that will lead to a coup, and their hands will be covered in blood of people, which unlike the blood of titans, won't fume, leaving a mark on their personalities. Armin, who had to commit murder first, wondered if he had done the right thing. Cool Captain Levi, looking bored, only told him that no one ever knew if the decisions were good. One way or another, the moral and ethical sides of all action in the story becomes blurred. The military police, in order to hide the truth, have been torturing and killing people for years because they think it is right. Thus, in their perspective, they were granted peace inside the walls. At the same time, the members of our squad are torturing the policemen themselves to rescue Eren, who was abducted again, as well as for the sake of all mankind. And honestly, Levi dressing up in butcher's apron and gloves looked too coherent. At the same time, Hans shows some dark side during those tortures, and everyone is acting for a good purpose. In Season 4, Hans will remember the words of that policeman when it will be necessary to get used to their role and to hide important information from ordinary people. Although everything started with making data available as opposed to hiding it during the reign of the king. That king in the capital is fake, and the real power is possessed by Ray's family, the heirs of the founding titan, and the will of the king who erected walls and took an oath of peace which no heir of the founder can break. Thus he wanted his people to be able to live in peace for a while, and when the moment comes, his descendants and subjects will humbly accept retribution for the atrocities committed by his people. Like any other solution to the Eldian problem in this story, it cannot be called perfect, because it had led to the oppression of his people outside the walls, and the place of the Eldian Empire was taken by the state of Morley, which adopted the methods of its oppressors. Meanwhile, you and I have reached the walls of Shiganshina, where the whole story began. Here we witnessed great and epic events that I will never forget. And no matter how much I love the first or final seasons, the events of the battle for Shiganshina evoke the strongest feelings. The intensity of events, tactical tricks from both sides and emotional anguish, it was just amazing and could be the final of the entire series due to scale and greatness. A fearless leader Erwin Smith come to the fore again, the devil in flesh himself, as he understands that his path to the knowledge about this world is paved with the bodies of countless comrades who gave their hearts for humanity. He was the leader that the Survey Corps needed to finally achieve success, but the price, of course, was incredibly high. But he is ready to pay it and even give his life for it, leading a squad of rookies toward imminent death under a hail of stones thrown by the Beast Titan. Their feelings are not important, their stories are not important, only a cry of rage against a terrible fate and fulfillment of their goal matter. An incredible moment, regardless of how many times I rewatched, penetrates to the bottom of my heart with its strength and bitterness. All these sacrifices were given so that our Captain Levi would reach the beast and eliminate the threat. But he hesitated, thinking briefly about the value of the life of the defeated enemy, and at the blink of an eye he was already being carried away by the Car Titan. Frankly speaking, Levi got both of a great power and a great burden. He has no equal in combat and cleaning, and his grace and lethality are the jewel of the entire series. At the same time, he saw how comrades died a terrible death, how operation failed, how the person who had taught him survival skill for this cruel world silently walked away. And during the next meeting, he tried to kill him pursuing his personal goals. Not to mention the death of his mother in front of his eyes. And it's he who is given the choice between the dying Armin and Erwin at the right moment. It's hard to imagine what was there in his soul, but he decided to let go of Erwin, who had thrown his absolute everything into the fighting, even without knowing the secrets of this world for which he was rushing forward. Armin also bears the burden of responsibility, but his action in extreme situation and decision to give his life for the sake of defeating the colossal titan leveled the scales in that most difficult choice. So we finally got to the house of the Yager family. Along the way, Mikasa and Eren were recalling the glorious day when everything was quiet around, the guards of the wall could drink and play cards, and they could be ordinary children. Unfortunately, all this was taken away from them, and after going through a difficult path of loss and overcoming, the tragic story of Grisha was waiting for them in the basement. From it, they learned that the whole world hated the Eldians, who were kept in the ghetto and used in battles as meat shield. For example, it was only this time that I realized that the titans around Shiganshina, transformed by Zeke, were exactly like that. And as his father's memories were revealed, Eren had a clearer view on his ultimate goal and the price he would pay for it. Therefore, the next time we meet him, he will be unrecognizable, but we'll talk about it next time. The only thing missing in this part of the anime is the cool opening. The second season opens with the Great Sasageo, but it ends with an incredibly strange track which I skipped during the first watching because of the music. However, then I realized the importance of the information about the world it was bringing up, and also that it showed something that we'll learn only later. But in the third season I really fell in love only with the ending of the second half from cinema stuff, which I never wanted to miss. For the rest, the third season is incredible, especially the battle for Shiganshina, an incredible level of animation, epic and drama and new twist of the plot which rocked up. Having answered some question about history and the world, new ones appear. The characters made difficult choices and make sacrifices while continuing to move forward. So for me, without a doubt, it was a 10 out of 10 show, which works fine while being rewatched. And for the sake of this emotion, I return to the Attack on Titan over and over again and advise others to take a look at it themselves. What still amazes me about this work is that no matter how much I talk about it, something always escapes. So many topics, characters, events, reflections, everything can fit into the script. But like our heroes, it's time for me to move forward. Thanks for listening, see you in the next episode. Sasagiyo, Jinzo wa sasagiyo, Subete no doraki wa ima kono toki no tame ni. Sasagiyo, Jinzo wa sasagiyo, Utabeki shugari wo sonate te tamitoe.